On today's episode of MI Triton, we're installing a 350 watt solar panel and a 40 amp MPPT solar regulator. Let's get stuck into it. Now first off, you might be wondering where I've been. What's with the delay with the videos? As you can see, we've been excavating my backyard doing some landscaping, so apologies for the delay. But in today's video, we're installing a new solar panel. You would have known that previously I had an XTM 160 watt foldable solar panel, not designed to be mounted onto the roof of a vehicle, and the way I set it up wasn't real great. Essentially, I made some little brackets, hot riveted the brackets into the roof rack. It held up for quite a long time through corrugations. Unfortunately, on a trip to York Peninsula not too long ago, went past a road train and it was just enough wind, the straw that broke the camel's back, and it ripped my solar panel clean off. Entirely attribute that down to the way I installed it. So in today's video, we're going to install this 350 watt solar panel, which is significantly larger than the prior solar panel we had on the roof of the vehicle. As you can see, it's a one-piece solar panel. The reason I've gone with a one-piece solar panel as opposed to a solar blanket is because obviously you can mount it to the roof of your vehicle. There's a number of ways that you can charge your deep cycle batteries when you mount them in your Overlander. Obviously you've got your traditional battery isolator, you know, those Red Arc or Adventure Kings isolator kits, you know, dual battery, second battery in the engine bay. You've also got your solar blankets, so you've got a second battery somewhere, you plug in your solar blanket and you can draw power. But the downside to that is you can only charge the vehicle's second battery when you are stationary and set up camp. With a fixed solar panel, you are sucking in power from the sun all day. As soon as the sun rises, you're sucking in power. You're offsetting the use of the fridge, you know, the draw from your battery, and you're replenishing it throughout the day. Until the sun goes down, you're still charging. You don't need to leave your vehicle running. So, fixed solar panel on the roof. Now, this time we're going for a superior way of mounting it. What we've got going on here is we've got these two brackets. Typical Bunnings shelving bracket. The idea is we're going to mount them from one roof rack to the other and then screw into the side of the solar panel, holding down the solar panel and mounting it. Now what we've got here is a KickAss 40 amp solar regulator, an MPPT. Previously I've used a PWM, which is an inferior form of solar regulator. My understanding of 12 volt electronics is basic to say the least. Essentially though, plain terms explanation, a PWM, your sort of lower spec solar regulator, only allows just above the battery's voltage. So if your battery is currently sitting at 12 volts, it'll only allow just over 12 volts of power to trickle into your battery. Therefore, you're not really maximizing the use and power of your solar panel. An MPPT is able to allow a higher voltage level to be put into your battery when charging. Very basic explanation. These are a much smarter, far superior way of charging your battery. Now, as you know, I've done a little bit of work with Australian Direct and KickAss in some of the brand sponsoring and all that sort of stuff. This is not a sponsored video. I just like the product and decided to buy it. I've got no bias here. It just seems like a good product. Why did I go for a 40 amp MPPT? Well, a 350 watt solar panel is giant. It's huge. It's a lot of power. It's overkill potentially, but the idea is for me to get a second AGM battery at some point, so it'd be good to distribute over two batteries, keeping me nice and charged up. This solar panel creates so much power that it would overwhelm the existing PWM battery regulator that I've got in the vehicle. So I need a more heavy duty MPPT. So let's have a quick talk about the solar panel. This solar panel is just your cheap off-catch Tech Solar Chinese mass-produced solar panel. Obviously it's said to, you know, put out 350 watts. Does it actually put out 350 watts? Not sure, we'll find out. And in a year or two's time, it's probably going to be putting out a bit less than 350 watts. All right, so this here is the solar panel cable. This cable is going to run from the battery up to the solar panel. The solar panel that we got came with these MC4 solar panel connectors. If you don't know what they are, look them up. It's a very weatherproof or water resistant connection, whereas with an Anderson plug, obviously, you can get corrosion and inefficiency with the travel of current from your solar panel to your battery. These are about $7 each, nothing crazy. This is the insert. So you slide your wire into the connector. And what we have here is a nice clean crimp. And what we do is we unscrew the back of the MC4 negative. We slide on the little nut part, insert in. Now that'll click in. And once it's in, you're never getting it out. So make sure you put it in properly. Otherwise, you're gonna have to buy an entirely new MC4 connection. So we screw it on. The reason these are so effective at keeping moisture out is as you tighten up this nut section, it's like a Dynabolt in that it crimps up and tightens up onto the rubber. It clamps it down on the rubber on the outside of your wire. So you tighten it up as much as you can, and we've got a nice tight connection. Now, I'm not going to show it, but we're going to do a positive connection, and then we'll get stuck into installing the solar panel. So our MC4 connections are wired up. I'm just going to reach down into the abyss and pull her out. Now I've connected the old ones from the adapter to this so they don't get damaged in the meantime. But we've got a fairly clean connection going on up here. We'll tidy that up with some tape, make it look a bit nicer. Now, as far as installing the solar panel, what we need to do is remove this little piece of brackety crap here. It's 2 pop rivets, so I'll screw them out, I'll drill them out, and what we'll do is we're going to work out the measurements and mount these here rails. Where the last solar panel failed, the mounting failed, pop rivets. So I made these little brackets with 2 rivets in each bracket, and over time, with the fact that the solar panel itself had a hinge in the middle because it was foldable, a bit of movement over time, metal fatigue, and eventually the rivets just popped out of these aluminium racks here. These racks are pretty strong, but not super strong. So what we'll do later is we'll put a little bit of silicone where the rivets were, and we'll prevent water from getting inside these little racks and staying in there. There's dirt on my hands, strong like a tree. There's roots where I stand. Oh, I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. They sing on a sleepless night. Try to catch me howling at the moon. So it's now time to screw the solar panel mounting brackets to the roof rack. So screw it in. We're going to put 2 screws per corner, and we'll see how that's looking. If it's looking like it's a little bit flimsy, we may even add another form of bracket beneath the panel. Work it out. So there we are, solar panels mounted. The brackets are attached to the solar panel. The MC4 connectors are ready to be connected. What we need to do now is remove the old PWM solar regulator and install this awesome kick-ass 40 amp MPPT regulator. Now, because the lighting's so bad, we've got a spotlight in the car so that you can see what we're doing. Hopefully it doesn't flicker too much. So what we're going to do is we're going to remove this old PWM solar regulator. We're going to need to relocate some of all of this. Now, these wires are okay. What I'm thinking is that we're going to have to disconnect the battery entirely and see if we can reshuffle some of this around. We're going to try and shove the MPPT in this space here. It's going to be a little bit tight, but we'll make it work as best we can, and I reckon it'll come out pretty nice. The solar controller has these mounting points on the rear. So obviously, like a picture frame, screw it in, put it on, slide it down, and it'll sit in place. So what we'll do once we've set up our mounting screws for the solar controller, we're going to plug in the positive and negatives going from the solar panel, and the positive and negatives going back to the battery. When it rains, it pours. Water's up to my chin.
Won't stop fighting to the very end. Many men try to reach it. Many men have
Panel wires through here. These next step is to screw in the holes for mounting the MPPT. So we're only going to use 3 of these holes because we can only actually get 3 holes in. We'll reuse that hole. So we'll start with that one. That's how it'll sit. A bit crooked, but who gives a shit?
Well, if you wanna get to heaven, you gotta raise a little hell. And I've been running from the law. Hope they won't shoot me down soon. Facing on the sleepless night.
This MPPT is rated to 40 amps. Now at 40 amps you want 10 millimeter square thick wire. So because this MPPT is going to be pushing out more power than the original PWM solar charger did, what we're going to need to do is we're going to need to use a thicker gauge of cable going from the MPPT to the battery. So what we're going to do from here is we're going to expose some of this wire, we're going to install it to the MPPT. These ends will be attached to the battery, and then we'll look at plugging it all in. So now we plug in our Bluetooth connector, screwed in nicely. These are our battery cables going back to provide power to the rear of the vehicle. So that's looking good. Now we just need to plug in our battery temperature sensor. Now one awesome feature that these MPPTs have is a battery temperature sensor, and we plug it in just like this. And there we have it. So we've got our battery, the new MPPT, our Bluetooth connector, we've got our temperature sensor. Now it's worth noting, safety side of things, when you install a battery in a confined space such as this, you need to be aware that you need to be able to ventilate the battery. In addition to this, there also needs to be sufficient ventilation for the MPPT. When it's working, it can get quite hot. Basically, there's a bit of a space here, and truth be told, there's actually a hole in the back of the cab there to allow for airflow to expel those battery gases, which can be flammable and harmful. Obviously, if this is releasing a lot of gases and this decides to spark for whatever reason, you're at risk of blowing your car up. So you really don't want any of that. The next step from here is to connect the solar panel to the cable going up to the solar panel from the MPPT. So we'll go around, connect it up, and see how things look. And that's it, guys. Hopefully you've enjoyed this video. Make sure you like, share, and leave a subscription after watching. And as always, we'll see you in the next one.
Try to catch me howling at the moon.